Hello, 605 students. This is the video for week 2 readings. For week 2, we go into the Wrath book. Absolutely love this book. We will go more in depth later in the semester. Wanted you to read the introduction. The introduction talked about followers were asked why they follow the most influential leader in their life. And there were 3 key findings. The most effective leaders are always investing in strengths. The most effective leaders surround themselves with the right people and then maximize their team. And the most effective leaders understand their followers' needs. They also determined that the path to great leadership starts with a deep understanding of the strengths you bring to the table. In this book, you will be looking at yourself. In the back of the book, there is a secret envelope that you will open, but don't do it now. When we get to part 3, where you will take your strengths finder survey. Do not do it now. Keep it closed. It has your secret code. If you lose that, you are in major trouble for the class because you will not be able to do what you need to do, and there are no 2 codes alike. So you are going to look at you, what type of leader you are, what are your strengths. So part 1 of this book talks about if you spend your life trying to be good at everything, you will never be great at anything. And I love that quote. If you spend your life trying to be good at everything, you will never be great at anything. I think about the working mothers that are also married and have multiple kids. And if you spend your life trying to be good at every little thing, you'll never be great at anything. And I think that there is a season and time of life that you have to decide, am I going to be just good at my job so I can be a great mom and a great wife? Or am I going to be great at my job and do what little I can to be a mom and to be a wife? I know those are very difficult questions, especially for those of you that are working mothers and spouses. But I really love this statement. If you spend your life trying to be good at everything, you will never be great at anything. You need to find your leadership strengths. Without an awareness of your strengths, it's almost impossible for you to lead effectively. Many leaders are blind to their own personality, and people try to lead while having no clue about their natural strengths. Then it has a quote that says, a leader needs to know his strengths as a carpenter knows his tools, or as a physician knows the instruments at her disposal. What great leaders have in common is that each truly knows his or her strengths and can call on the right strength at the right time. This explains why there is no definitive list of characteristics that describes all leaders. That also means that if you know your strengths, you also have to be aware of your weak areas. That is equally as important. Now, they never want you to focus on the negative, but I do feel that it's important for you to know what areas you might need to improve on, or that you might need to surround other people that have strengths in those areas. There was an article about transformational leadership to inspire and motivate. I'm going to be honest, this article was long. It is a research study. The real important parts are kind of at the beginning, talks about transformational leadership. Talks about how school administrators require abilities such as being team-oriented, strong communicators, team players, problem solvers, change makers, and transformational leaders. And transformational leadership is the ability to get people to want to change, improve, and be led. Transformational leadership has 3 basic functions. Sincerely serve the needs of others, empower them, and inspire followers to achieve great success. Charismatically lead, set a vision, instill trust, confidence, and pride in working with them, and stimulate intellect. There were several influences that were discussed, which is what the study was focused on. Idealized influence, which is considering the needs of others before their own personal needs, avoiding the use of power for personal gain, and demonstrating high moral standards and setting challenging goals for their followers. Inspirational motivation, to motivate and inspire those around them by displaying enthusiasm and optimism, involving the followers in envisioning attractive future states, and communicating high expectations and demonstrating commitment to the goals. And then individualized consideration represents the leader's effort to behave individuals as if they are special people and act as a coach or mentor to develop their followers' potential. And then intellectual stimulation, the leader's effort to stimulate followers to be innovative and creative. Then it went on to discuss what the participants in the study stated about their leader in each of these 4 areas. You also had a short article that talked about what makes a good principal. Talks about the principles of great principles. I really like that, the principles, P-L-E-S, of great principles, PALS. The school is a family, air of connectedness, a community of caring, and teamwork as a parent. Teachers are treated as professionals. He lets me teach. They do not micromanage their teachers. Instruction in the school is data-driven. They are student-centered. Great principals know their students. They reach out to families. They make an effort to include families in the community of a school. They have great reservoirs of energy. They promote school spirit and teamwork. They develop leaders. Resources and supplies are available. Student leadership is also valued in schools with great principals. They have good help. They distribute leadership as they work with assistant administrators and teacher leaders to achieve the vision of the school. Then the last was the role of the principal. This actually is the North Carolina General Statute that gives the powers and duties of the principal. It's 115C-288. And it listed things by letter. Did not go into all of the details because you can read it. But in North Carolina, the general statute states that the powers and duties of a principal are to grade and classify pupils, to make accurate reports to the superintendent and to the local board, to improve instruction and community spirit, to conduct fire drills and inspect for fire hazards, to discipline students and to assign duties to teachers with regard to the discipline, general well-being, and medical care of students, to protect school property, to report certain acts of law enforcement to report certain acts to law enforcement and the superintendent, to make available school budgets and school improvement plans, to evaluate certified employees and develop action plans, to transfer student records, to sign driving eligibility certificates and to notify the Division of Motor Vehicles, and to establish school improvement teams. Also discussed ethics in the school executive. There were 4 of them: justice, care, critique, and profession. I'm going to go back to A. So I work with another principal that talks all the time when we are in high school principal meetings regarding what if a teacher gives a student an average of a grade of a 59 and they need a 60 to graduate. And he will always say, General Statute 115CA, to grade and classify pupils. Now, it says in there that you can't just do it arbitrarily, and you have to look at what's in the best interest of the student. It actually talks more in depth about caution doing it solely based on standardized or achievement test scores. That is a very big, sticky situation in high school because you get into athletic eligibility. My advice as a principal, especially in a high school, is, or any level, you are able to decide whether a child is retained or not. You need to follow your local school board policy. You need to include everyone that should be involved in the decision, but ultimately it is up to the principal. Now at the high school level, we have certain credits that are to be earned. Do I go through and feel, oh, this child should be a sophomore, so I'm going to go change their grade of 4 failing classes so they can be sophomores? No, I don't do that, because that would diminish the responsibility of the student. There are other ways that you can look at things. In Gaston County, which is where I work, we have a differentiated diploma, and it's actually a state process where if the child has experienced something rather tragic in their life or something life-altering, could be the death of a parent, then you can apply for differentiated diploma requirements. But when this past year at 6 p.m. the night before graduation, I had a student making up a whole semester's worth of time and assignments for a class, and the teacher graded it and said they made a 59.4, and the child needed this to graduate. The child received an extra 1/10 of a percentage point for just for being behind, I guess you could say, for working really hard to make up the time, because the child didn't need to be in high school anymore. And as the principal, I'm able to make that decision. But you need to do it judiciously, you need to do it conservatively, and you need to do it with purpose and consistently. I think it's interesting that the fourth power and duty for a principal is to conduct fire drills. Seems like a very small task, but that's very important. You need to make sure that children know how to get out of the building. I think it's funny that it talks about to evaluate certified employees and develop action plans. Yes, to me, that's one of the most important roles of a school principal. But K, to sign driving eligibility certificates and to notify the Division of Motor Vehicles. That sounds very menial. Now, all of these powers and duties of the principal are not something that I do on an everyday basis. I don't sign driving eligibility certificates. There are people in our offices of student services that does that. I don't notify the Division of Motor Vehicles. My data manager does that. But I have to make sure that those things are getting done. And so it goes into that delegation, that you need to delegate out. But I think it's also interesting that they have the ethics in the school executive. So look at that. If you are not in the state of North Carolina, it would be interesting to see what your state's powers and duties of the principal are. If you have any questions about week 2 readings, please let me know.